All right, it looks like we got green, and it looks like we are going live. Took me a little bit longer than anticipated to get this going this morning. Forgot to make the espresso, and it's not a morning crypto show without the espresso, so that just wouldn't make sense. So I got that going, and then realized that I was a little bit I didn't put up all my notes and everything else that I had to do to prepare to make sure that everything is kind of in order. So now we've got everything organized, everything set up, and we're ready to start chatting for the morning. So sorry for the little bit of a delay and keeping everybody on hold. What's up, Farshad, Dot Column, Annalise? Good to see you guys. Morning somewhere. Farshad is first one on this morning. Fantastic. All right, let me see the change linger. Let me pop this chat out so I can actually see it. And it was funny last night on Rain's show. That was really enjoyable. I got to tell you guys. You know, it's amazing. You know, with every joint show that I've done, I find that it adds a completely different dynamic to to streaming, to making videos, and I find it to just overall just the flow of having two people on a chat, or potentially even more, and it, again, adds a different dynamic and allows different conversations to take place as well. So it's kind of nice. Here I'm just monitoring, make sure if you guys are getting any kind of lag, let me know. I'm not seeing lag on YouTube, but the I'm streaming, but I always get lag on the YouTube dashboard. The YouTube dashboard never makes any sense. So all right, we'll let people kind of bounce in here a little bit, and we'll get off to a start shortly. But with everything, I like to start off with some crazy news items. And the one crazy news item, hey guys, let me know also if the audio is okay. I just want to make sure everything is coming through fine. So, and I'm seeing that I'm getting I think I'm a little bit ahead on the YouTube app. So let's see, you just started watching the show when I got your notification. Okay, awesome. Glad that you bounced in. We get to participate live. So yeah. So anyhow, so it was really great. I had Chip on Monday, being on with Rain yesterday. Really, again, changes the dynamic, and I like that. I like that a lot. But so with every stream, I like starting off with some crazy news as we're kind of waiting for people to bounce in. And the one news item that I pulled up for today has to do with Craig Wright. Now, he never seems to disappear. He always seems to linger in the news, which can be a little bit disconcerting for many. I find it to be a little bit comical at this point. So Jerry Hall, what's going on? Good to see you. Glad you made it in from Costa Rica. Hola, ¿cómo estás? All right, let's see. This one, here we go. All right, it came up. So obviously we just went through all this turmoil of with Craig Wright, and now he just adds to the layer of stupidity, maybe. And actually in this article that was up on CCN, it's kind of hilarious because hey, what is that? Sandbo XRP, first time on. Glad to have you here. If you enjoy the show, make sure you give a thumbs up and subscribe. So anyone coming in, give a thumbs up on your way in. DNI said, "Don't come in." He said, "Don't leave." He was going on another marathon stream, I think. If I didn't start soon, I think my time was running out to get started, and that was it. He was going to get his second wind, and we would have had another couple hours with DNI. So DJ Defiant, good to see you here. So anyhow, Sanbo XRP, I think you'll enjoy the stream. So definitely hang out for a few. So anyhow, so this article that popped up on CCN about Craig Wright. Not sure if you guys saw it. Yo, Farshad, thanks for the $4.99. Appreciate it. So Binance, so stupid. It's here right in the title. Binance CEO swats stupid Bitcoin SV. Craig Wright's shocking slavery and prostitution claims. So right when we thought it couldn't get any worse with Craig Wright, trying to take claim for being Satoshi, he amps it up and comes after the major exchanges. So he definitely took a direct swipe at CZ from Binance, and so the quote here, it's totally asinine. Here's his quote here. He said, "Right now, 30% of Binance money funds women in prostitution. 30% of Binance and Tether funds women in slavery." So this guy, yeah, proud Aussie. Sorry, Carl. I really, I feel bad for you on that one. The guy's just really embarrassing. He's embarrassing himself at this point, and now he's embarrassing others. So it just makes absolutely no sense. And the guy lives in, where does he live? He lives in Canada, I think. I believe he lives in Canada. I could be wrong. I think he lives in Toronto. That's a possibility. Not sure. So I'm trying to find, here's Peter McCormick. Where's his response? No, this wasn't Peter McCormick. I don't know who this is that responded here, but it's hilarious. He said, WTF is this guy talking about? According to Craig Wright in his talk today from Real Coin Geek Toronto, 30% of Binance and Tether funds women in slavery. I can't wait to see how the cultists attempt to explain how this statement is somehow true. And then CZ Binance, this was on Twitter, responded. He said, giving attention is probably what he wants. We ignore stupid stuff and focus on things that matter. So I think that, really adds, a critical layer. And obviously there's some hostility that has been brewing since SV was delisted from Binance back in April. So that's awesome. But you see this stupidity. It's kind of mind numbing. What's going on with this guy, with Craig Wright. So anyhow, so I thought that was kind of a fun story to kind of start off with while we're waiting for people to bounce in. And now we got we got a decent crowd in here. DNI's in here. So since DNI's in here, we can get started. So I think that's good. All right, let me see here. Let us go to the topics at hand. If I can open up the my note here. Let me scroll back up in my notes. And then what I want to do. Okay, here we go. All right, so really the topic that I brought up, and it's really narrow focus because it's only one of the points in the notes to go over today, has to do with monetizing the web. And so I talk about, XRP monetizing the web one token at a time. And as you think about monetization of the web, and I think about the overall outreach, the opportunity and potential of banking the majority of the world's population, and it opens up opportunity for everybody. What it does, and I said this before on other streams, and I have to kind of explain the terminology that I'll use here, but the terminology utilized in kind of leveling the playing field, and not leveling the playing field in terms of bringing the producers down and trying to supplement the underclass and trying to bring them up through government assistance. What I'm talking about is leveling the playing field in terms of giving all people equal access to the global marketplace. And the global marketplace can be regional in nature. The key is that you have access to the banking benefits. And so right now, a large percentage of the population still does not live within the banking, within banking. They don't get to benefit from banking, meaning that they don't have access to credit. They don't have access to credit cards. They don't have access to mortgages, car loans, business loans. It doesn't exist in their world. I do believe that, stepping stones are critical. So the first parts of the stepping stone for bringing somebody into a banking economy would be to give them a form of banking, a form of transaction, a form of digitized transaction. So when we talk about monetizing the web, monetizing the world, one token at a time, Annalise, you're working but listening. Awesome. Appreciate that. Glad I could be your background noise while you're working. So again, monetizing the web one token at a time, monetizing the world one token at a time, allowing people to participate. Now, with that participation, once individuals, regardless of where they are in the world, and I brought this example up previously, talking about a basket maker in Africa that now has the opportunity to actually sell their baskets to a broader audience, and not relying just on the audience of the wholesaler that's going to come and pay them pennies on the dollar when he comes to purchase in fiat currency, but opening up to a much broader audience. And again, whether it's regional in nature in their country, or if it could go beyond borders, because that's the direction, that's the opportunity when we talk about leveling the playing field, giving someone the access of developing and building up their business into a direction that will really allow them to do some amazing things. Now, right now they can't, so. Yeah, I forgot the boo part. Carl, I was reading down and said, okay, let's be quiet for a second. No, so anyhow, so the way I break it down, there's three aspects of the monetization. There's monetizing the web, which is important. So we see a lot of that being tested out through Brave with the Batcoin. We see that going on with Coil. We see what potentially could come out of XRP Tipbot. We see what could potentially come out of Zine that the XRP Tipbot creators are working on. There's others that are being developed right now in this space. The monetization of the web is one of the three components to really global access and global monetization and global banking and access. So the monetization of the web, enabling compensation of creators. So creators could be YouTube creators, it could be Twitter influencers, creators could be bloggers, so written blogs. It could be artists that are putting up digital art or trying to sell their art or whatever it might be. It could be authors. It could be musicians. Really compensation for so many things that you can do online through direct access. Some of that monetization can be automated. So let's say last night on a joint stream, an automatic monetization through the Coil platform, through a Brave platform, where individual direct input isn't necessarily needed. The idea of, like, say, an XRP Tipbot or the Super Chat is a way for individuals to become actively engaged because they want to help out fellow content creators. However, on the back end, there's a methodology to the madness of monetization, meaning allowing the ads to really truly benefit the creators. So if you have the big corporations that are placing ads in the web somehow, as things develop, the ad is there, and automatic payment distributions going to the content creators through these ads. As these ads display, as individuals that are watching the content are allowing these ads to show up, but everybody is somehow getting compensated as a result, is a great way of doing it. But at the same time, if individuals are going to go on and participate and watch content, and ads are being, thrown up in their face, there should be kind of a trade-off where they are also getting compensated for seeing those ads. There has to be some other pull, and right now the majority of the monies are going to the bigger entities like a Google, especially if you think about the monetization through the paid ads or through the super chat. I think it's around 30% of the super chats go to Google, and then even on the paid ads, it's really a fraction. So I think it's it's really interesting how that can happen. But now the monetization again would be the automated compensation, automated payment potential. And you think about like the coil subscriptions. I like that idea behind it. Again, it's individuals coming on saying, I'm going to participate in coil because I don't want to see ads at all, and I'm willing to pay $5 a month. It's worth a $10 a month subscription, so I never see ads ever again. And at the same time, you're paying for the content that you want to see, not content that you don't want to see. So similar to, you think about like you go to your cable TV and you go through the channels, and there's 100 channels, and maybe you watch 3 of them, but you're still paying for 97 other channels that you'll never watch ever, or maybe once in a blue moon. But now there's a method to which you can pay in micro payments how much time you've spent watching TV, or in micropayment just pay for the content you want to watch, or just pay for the exact channels that you want to watch. So I think that's really going to be a very, very important dynamic. So the digital asset guy, what's up? What's going on, digital asset guy? Money bags, good to see you. Mike Smith. There's Michael Metzner. Michael, did you get that book already? Get the book I recommended? You might be hard to find, but if you take a look for it, it's definitely worth reading. It's super enlightening. Crypto Anon, good to see you on. All the way in from DNI. Glad that he sent you over here. To anybody who's on, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. That'd be awesome. And if you want to be notified every time I post a new video, new live stream, hit the bell notifier, and that will notify you. And I find that it doesn't always notify you because sometimes that misses out. So anyhow, all right. So we covered the first component of monetization. The second component is really the large corporate movement of money. And yeah, digital asset guy, I do believe things like coil web monetization is going to really change and shift the entire dynamic of how we access the internet, but also again how we access the content that we see on TV. And I believe as people talk about cord cutting meaning getting rid of cable TV, but we're going to start paying for the content through, if we're watching YouTube, we're going to end up paying for the YouTube channel. If we're going to be watching Netflix, we're already paying for the Netflix channel. We're paying for Amazon Prime channels to see the movies and to see the shows that they're making. If we're going to monetize a news channel, again, we can break it down and pay for what we want, but then it all goes back to a subscription model again, because if we're paying $11.99 a month for unlimited access to YouTube, we're paying $11.99 a month access to Netflix, we're paying $125 a year, whatever that breaks down to monthly, for Amazon Prime, but you get a lot more benefit in that membership. And then you keep adding components. What's crazy about our existence today is that we are bombarded with ways to have our money stolen from us, so to speak. If you think about, there's more expenses now than really there ever has been in history. So, and we think about it, there's small amounts of money that add up very, very quickly. Cable bills, like Metzner is saying, have been skyrocketing. to a point that it's ridiculous. We are constantly having to negotiate with the provider to make sure that they're always trying to increase it year over year, and that's ridiculous. But then we're bombarded with our Amazon Prime. We're bombarded again, like I said, if you want YouTube Pro, if you want, or whatever it's called, if you want your Netflix, and there's a whole host of other pay per view whatever apps, and as you go through that, then forget about the fact that we have to pay for our mobile phone, our Wi-Fi and our mobile phone. Then if you add the hotspot in your vehicle, you know, $20 a month to add a Wi-Fi hotspot to your vehicle. Then you know, if you get I'm just trying to think, you know, you could have you could have actual contracts on your tablets so you can access internet wherever you are, you know. So it's kind of, so there's so many ways that you're spending money today, and so even with this cord cutting, we're actually adding more and more money to it. So you have all that, you're paying all this money on cable TV, but again, you know, you have this outflow of money on all these apps. And so as this all gets reined in through the monetization of the web and through COIL, we're going to be able to break everything down into micro payments and receive reverse compensation for viewing ads if we want to see ads, or, you know, not viewing ads, let's pay a little bit more. And that's really, I think, at the end of the day, people want convenience. You know, I pay more to have TSA pre-screen pre-check, so when I go to the airport I can fly through the line. You can pay more to get clear, and you have options now between TSA pre-check and clear. So maybe you have two memberships, one for each. You know, when you go into the airport, you have the airline clubs. You know, so, you know, whatever airline you're flying with, you go into the club. Maybe you pay a little bit extra for that convenience. You know, so there's always a way and a reason to pay a little bit extra for convenience. And it's the same thing with streaming content or any content that's being bombarded onto us externally. When they add ads, we should pay for the convenience of not seeing those ads. And up until this point, it's very difficult to do that, because, you know, we should be paying for the content we stream. If we watch 1 hour of TV, I should only be paying for that 1 hour of use. We do the same thing with electricity. We don't pay, you know, a flat fee for electricity. We're paying per kilowatt hour. With water, you're paying for water usage. You know, so it should be the same thing with the TV, which, you know, for the most part, our TV's off. You know, YouTube's on. So my son watches YouTube on 3 screens at the same time. So, you know, I don't know, you know, he never turns the TV on once. If I asked my son to name a TV show, he wouldn't even know what to tell me. He would talk about PewDiePie or Mr. Beast, or, you know, one of the many other YouTube streamers that are talking about, you know, gaming. But he has no idea what a TV show is. Ever in his life, he has never once watched a TV show. So, you know, so that's crazy, you know. Yo, Farshad, what's up, man? Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. So monetization. So let's get into the second component of monetization. Get the Lounge Buddy app. I have no idea what that is, Chip. The Lounge Buddy. Lounge Buddy. I would click that link, but then it might screw my stuff up over here. Maybe just tell us what that is real quick, and then we'll check that out in a little bit. So the second component, large corporations. Now this we all know very well, which is Ripple is actively engaged in, as is R3 and others, which is global cross-border payment movement of money. So we're talking about monetization and again, shifting the global economy into a more digital aspect, you know, one token at a time. Again, monetizing the web, monetizing the world, one token at a time. So the second component, large corporate, large bank, global cross-border payments. That's the second component. Obviously, we all know about that. We've talked about that considerably. The third component is smaller P2P micropayments and easy transaction. $25 for usage of the lounge. What? No. No. Oh, per time? Normally it costs like $30. Or, well, if you go in with a member, I think it costs $30 or $35 to use the lounge. It used to be when I would go, I could bring my wife and my son into the lounge, and then they said, depending on the age, they said, well, at a certain age, you're gonna have to pay for them now, and it was like $35, and then now it's narrowed down to, well, yeah, if you go in through Amex, if you go in through Amex Platinum, as an Amex Platinum member, then you can get into the lounges at no cost. You don't have to buy their lounge pass. But then they narrowed that membership down to where you can only go in yourself. You can't bring anybody else in. You don't need to be a member. And it's only $25, I'll tell you what, is definitely worthwhile. So depending on how much time you have on the ground, and the reason I say that, so DNI, I'm not sure if you've ever been into the lounge in Detroit Metro, if you're still on, or if anybody here has flown through Detroit, or if you go through JFK's got a nice Delta lounge. I'm trying to think of some of the better places. Detroit's got 3 of them, and they're actually really nice. But the thing is that they've increased the quality of food, and actually Atlanta has a nice one as well. Oh, Farshad, all right, man, have fun at the gym, enjoy. So yeah, Atlanta actually has a really nice Delta lounge as well. London, Miami, Chip, I avoid Miami airport with a passion. When people fly here, I tell them, absolutely, you fly into Miami, I'm not picking you up. When I fly international, I'll fly to Detroit, JFK, before I fly direct flight out of Miami. That's just my perspective on not going to the Miami airport. But yeah, decent food. They've really elevated the quality of a lot of the lounges. Atlanta, they have large bars over there. Detroit, they don't have a bar. They just have an alcohol selection. Atlanta, though, they have top shelf. JFK, they have an outdoor kind of like hangout area with a bar, and it's awesome. You know, you think you're traveling, you're flying through, go to JFK, go to the Delta Lounge over there, and it's absolutely awesome. You know, so I really you know, that's a nice one. You know, even though going through the JFK airport is a disaster sometimes, but anyhow, yeah, you have to fly through Miami International, dude. I don't even, you know, I know it's probably nice, but just getting there is really not my thing. That's not fun. Miami is absolutely horrible. Yeah, the airport, once you're inside, probably isn't that bad, but as long as you don't have to get to the airport, you're perfectly fine. So small P2P micropayments is the third component. So we talk about, you know, enabling compensation of creators, artists, etc., through monetization of the web, large corporate monetization, which would be global cross-border payments, and then small P2P micropayments. And the small P2P micropayments absolutely is, and that's where, when we're talking about, you know, even from a perspective of that basket maker in Africa that wants to sell their product, having access to P2P micropayments. Now, here's what's interesting, and if we want to kind of connect this entire payment space overall. So as we connect the payment space, and Brad Kimes brought this up a couple days ago, I don't remember exactly when, but I had mentioned it in a previous video, and I talked about XRP being the Coke to XLM's Pepsi. Which to me, you know, there's 2 components, and it's not, in this case, it's not really a matter of preference. It's not like some people are gonna say, I love to use XRP or I love to use XLM. To me, it's more of a, you know, it's more of a relationship. So what Brad had brought up, and I kind of agree with him, that it was by design. The XLM spinoff was actually by design. XRP had a specific use case, which was going after the banks. So with that specific use case in mind, the big banks are not going to participate in a program that is also giving access to the individual on the street. So banks want to have an exclusive relationship with an exclusive product, again, that they are going to then utilize for the person on the street, for the retail consumer. So it doesn't make sense that the person you're going to buy this software from, this solution from, is also selling a very similar solution to your customers. So to me, again, this, the spinoff of XLM, the spinoff of Stellar was very much by design, and I believe there, Chip, there might be some weakness. I did see, when the nodes went down, they corrected it. I believe that there could be some potential weakness there. There could be there's learning curves as well, and things will change. And whether or not it's the XLM nodes, that somewhere in that process they'll work through it. But again, the XLM, the Stellar aspect, its creation, its purpose at that point in time was as a reach out to bank the unbanked. That was, if you look at the mission statement of stellar.org, their mission statement was specifically to bank the unbanked. Now, the fact that they partnered with IBM and you have others that are trying to build a monetization solution based off of Stellar, based off of XLM, that's another issue. Really, if you have the banking entities and the larger movement of funding, XRP needs to be the solution. I think it's folly to try to use Stellar and XLM for the big corporate, big global cross-border payment solution. Doesn't make any sense. However, if they can get their act together, I'm not saying that they're perfect, but if Stellar, XLM can get their act together, they can definitely be extremely complementary in the space to help begin to provide the monetization on the P2P micropayment area in that space, because of the fact that from a utility perspective and an overall liquidity perspective, the amount of digital asset that would then potentially be required through an XRapid solution would consume on an ongoing regular basis, or could potentially consume a large quantity of the available XRP that's out there, or it's going to be pushing it up. Although, again, the structure, I'm thinking about the structure of it, because in my opinion, as we look at an XRP tip bot, we look at a coil, we look at a Zine or a Sign, I don't know how you pronounce the XIGN, but however you pronounce that, the new solution that West Wind is rolling out, but that really has an amazing potential. So it could be that XLM is going to fade into obscurity, or XLM can get their act together. Like Chip said, I did definitely highlight and note when the nodes went down to show an inherent weakness, because we do not see the same thing within the Ripple solution or within the XRP ledger. It's very solid. It was very well thought out. The XLM Stellar was almost like an afterthought spin-off, and not all spin-offs are going to spin off properly, and they can't take the same technology with them as they spin it off to do that. So again, I think the initial intent, again, was to make sure that there was a clear separation of intent when Ripple was selling their solution, and so I believe that's where we saw that spin-off of the Stellar organization, so that the initial focus, all of the primary focus on Ripple and the RippleNet solution was for banking, that they weren't at that time, because at that time they were really one of the only players in the space developing external solutions utilizing XRP. Although XRP has its use case, XRP 100% can live and exist on its own without Ripple, as we're seeing with West Wind, with Coil, with Zine, with so many other solutions that are popping up, R3, Corda, and more will be utilizing the XRP token. So it's not all about Ripple, and it's not all about RippleNet and XRapid. But at that time, we have to think what was going on at the time of that division and separation. But to me, again, not to belabor that point, my point wasn't really to look at the comparison between them, but it was more so to look at the overall purpose of monetization of the world and leveling the playing field, so to speak, in terms of giving access on all levels of the population to gain access to a global economy through the digitization and the digital global economy. So that was kind of my point with all of that. Taking a 2-second espresso break. It's pretty good espresso. Man, Illy, they have a couple different versions. They have the red version and they have the black version. And I've tried both, and I go with the black version. I said this before. The best coffee, though, that I have brought in, almost impossible to get in the U.S. The one I like is definitely impossible to get in the U.S. From Segafredo. And they have the high-end kind of coffee shop version. It's in a black bag. The beans are like the way they roast them. I mean, unbelievable. And so Illy to me has been the second best. I'm sure there's others out there. I've had some fresh roasted. I've tried going to different bean types or roasteries or whatever. And it's hard to find a good quality espresso. That's definitely for sure. And forget about Starbucks. You go to Starbucks and their coffee is too acidic. I feel like it's, packed with preservatives. There's something off. And so when you have no other choice, obviously you go into a Starbucks. But man, if there were Segafredo places, and the one great thing about the Detroit airport is that dead center, there's an Illy coffee shop. And typically Illy coffee shops, you don't see them in the US. You see them all over Europe, and especially in all the airports over there. So having Illy coffee available over here is at least a second best option. So the Starbucks flat white, yeah, but that must have milk and sugar in it, so it kind of kills off the acidity of the coffee, right? $9 a cup. That's so insane. That's the other part of it. We're talking about how we're getting fleeced of our money. That's another one. How much does it cost to make quality coffee? And Starbucks isn't making quality coffee. They're mass producing coffee. No milk, no sugar. Oh, milk, no sugar. Yeah, but the milk is killing the acidity. Man, you gotta drink coffee without the milk. But then you can't drink the Starbucks coffee without milk. But you can drink the espresso without milk. Then it's awesome. I've never actually a flat white. There's versions of it that I have had before. And it's a little like 1/4 milk and 3/4 coffee. Is that how they make it? I'm not really sure. So a macchiato then, right? Yeah. Yep. So grind your own beans. That's the best way to do it. Yep. I like when you yeah, definitely. That's the best way to do it. That's the other concern, Mike, is that if you buy prepackaged coffee, they did a study on it. I don't remember exactly who it was, but they did a study and they found dirt and other things mixed in with the coffee grounds. Not to say that there was remnant of dirt on the coffee bean that they found, but there was actually dirt mixed in to offset the volume of the coffee that they were filling because they were pre-grinding it. Plus, they have to put preservatives in them in some way, shape, or form to maintain. So, yeah, grinding your own beans 100% is the way to go. And typically, with a Segafredo, we get a huge bag of roasted beans. And then with the Illy, it's based on what's available. So if the beans are available, that's what we get. If they don't, if they're not, then we have to go with the pre-ground. And that's just how that is, So I should grind my own. That's hilarious. That's really funny. Oh my God. Come on now. That's funny. All right. So 7 Brew Coffee. You know what I love is the ESPN gets $7 from every cable subscription. Why did yeah, oh, that's insane. Forget ESPN, man. They've gone all political and nutty too. All right, so here's the next one. Check this out. Here's what this kind of all leads into what we were just talking about, and then we're going to jump into some government regulation. One of the things that I was talking to Chip about was adding bumpers onto the stream. It requires having more than one person on the stream, I think, while you're doing this to focus. But as I normally go through my thought process on these shows, I normally start out with some news items, something crazy, interesting to talk about. Then I'll focus in on Ripple, XRP relevant news because something in the global payment space, if it's not Ripple, XRP, but something in that genre. Then I'll get into government regulations, and then I always try to end with real world utility. And sometimes there's a crossover between the news and the real world utility, or so sometimes it gets mixed up. And that's kind of my thought process as I drive through these streams. So now I'm kind of moving into this, moving out of the XRP global payment space. We'll be moving into government regulation. But this one article is what kind of got me thinking about the whole monetization and really the overall, what it means. And this article was on EthereumWorldNews.com. And on EthereumWorldNews.com, the title is what caught me. Ripple XRP's $600 billion disruption. There's an article from like 2 days ago. So that's in remittance payments. Anytime you see something like that, it obviously has significant meaning. When we look at the digital asset space at large, and actually I was listening to a video from DM Logic, and I was listening to his, and he had mentioned that he's not an XRP maxi, but he's relatively invested, diversified, I should say, across multiple different digital assets. And there's an opportunity, but one of the things that he looked at early on and now, and I kind of agree with this, is that there's other great projects out there. And if you look at the back end of the project, you look at the significance of the project, to make a determination as to whether or not you want to invest in the digital asset that is in some way, shape, or form being utilized within that project to really give the speculation that what you're investing in is actually going to be something that could gain in value. And so, one of the things that, he was talking about VeChain, he was talking about a couple different things, but it all kind of factors in because I look at the remittance, the Ripple XRP $600 billion disruption. It's not all about XRP and it's not all about Ripple because there are other players coming into this market. It just so happens that Ripple with RippleNet has the best solution, at least at this point, and they're so much further ahead than any of the other competition. So as competition comes into the space, the competition is going to push Ripple with RippleNet to another level because they want to maintain their competitive advantage. As soon as they, fall into this lull of complacency, then they're going to start losing their advantage. But now they've got really first mover advantage in the space within the digital asset space. Bitcoin obviously isn't the right solution for cross-border payment. There can be a case made still that Bitcoin, its current purpose is as a store of value, as a potential offset to gold. And, mainly because of its higher value, its limited nature, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. But within the $600 billion industry, this remittance industry, that is an amazing opportunity. That's where we see this immense potential for XRP because XRP has and was really made for this purpose. And there are others that are moving into the space. The key, though, is that it's a $613 billion industry. That's huge. And so what I find was interesting in this article, though, is it says here that India ranked first in countries receiving remittance payments. How insane is that? And, India, and obviously India's got monster population of like 1.3 billion people. But that, that's really, really important. And so we have others like Western Union and MoneyGram. Both of them had, worked and tested the RippleNet solution. They both have tried to kind of move in their own direction, and then they'll end up circling back. Because at the end of the day, what any industry finds is that when there's a good solution, you're going to go to the best solution. Unless you're trying to cut pennies and budget. If the solution is too costly, that's where you go to alternates. Or if for whatever reason there's only one solution that's available to you based on whatever region you're in. But we've cut all border ties now. So RippleNet and with digital asset, really anybody in the world can participate. And I forget, we were just on someone's stream, and someone that was earlier and brought that up, that I think that was earlier this morning on DNI stream. I don't know if that was last night, but brought that up, the purpose of the digital asset really giving, access to everybody around the world. That's what's so amazing about digital asset, is that everybody in the world can participate in digital asset. It's not just the United States, not just in Europe, not just in Africa, not just in Asia, but everybody in the world participates in the movement and can buy and sell these digital assets. Obviously, there can be some limitation with the exchanges, or in the U.S., a limitation to ICOs due to the regulation of the potential of it being a security. However, overall, this is an amazing time right now. So we look at the estimated XRP market share. So let me see here. It says Ripple won't have control of the remittance industry anytime soon, which is true. It's going to take a lot of time for them to get there. But the pie is big enough to be, let me see what it says, divvied up with substantial returns. This is from the article, and I agree with this. I think it's interesting. A conservative 10% of the global remittance industry would equate to over $60 billion, or more than 3 times the entire market cap for XRP. So that could be, pretty interesting. That doesn't mean that they will balloon to 60 billion. Doesn't mean that the potential is there. The potential, for XRP to make a monumental move into this space is really amazing. So as you start thinking about remittance payments, and then I started thinking about, the nature of what does it really mean, again, to digitize the world, and, creating this kind of, again, this leveling of the playing fields with giving everybody access, I think it's really, really interesting. So hang on, I got to get some more of this espresso. Hang on a second. Let me look at, you see, I know you guys are kind of conversing here. See if there's anything that had popped up here that I missed out on. Mike Smith had said, how about the potential of Starlink to connect millions of unbanked to the internet? What is Starlink? Is that the Elon Musk project with his satellites? He has 60 satellites. He wants to blow that up to 120 satellites, giving everybody in the world direct access to high-speed internet. Is that what you're talking about? Starlink. If it's not that, then I'm not really sure what Starlink is. Maybe you can comment in there. And then, all right, so let's move, while we wait for Mike to respond to that, let's move on to government regulation. Because yesterday, twice yesterday, I talked a little bit about Token Taxonomy Act. Monday, we talked about Token Taxonomy Act. Thousands of satellites. Yeah. Elon Musk sounds like a Bond villain. You know what, Carl Lewis, that's so hilarious. I think about, some of these guys like Elon Musk and what could happen, for him to become the villain, right? I think about that all the time. There's a couple of them out there that are vying for that position, and there could be some, some major catastrophe that'll, set him into some downward spiral, and all of a sudden he'll show up with an exoskeleton suit, with his underground, car tunnels, and his satellites trying to take over the world, and whatever it might be. It's kind of funny. He controls all the cars that are out there, and you know, and all of a sudden, you know, autopilot's kicking in and, you know, crazy stuff starts happening. So no, but yeah, Elon Musk, thousands of satellites. I think it's interesting. I think that it's really an interesting initiative, because, you know, if we can give access to the world population, the world's population does need access to high-speed internet. The United States, and there was an article that came out recently. I forget which percentage of the United States still doesn't have access to quality high-speed internet. And, you know, Chip knows that even with high-speed internet, you know, that doesn't even mean that you're really getting high-speed internet. You know, it's insane. You know, we're getting 170 to 200 down, 12 to 25 up, and, you know, still having connectivity issues. So, you know, that's definitely, you know, but putting those satellites in space could definitely help out. Right. Okay. So that's interesting. But let me see here. Where was I? Oh yeah, real world utility. So let me pull that up here in a second. Let's see. Hang on a second. Real world utility. Where did it go? Confirmed. Startup. This was on the daily HODL. Who runs the daily HODL? Is that which site is Alex Cobbs? He has a site, but I can't remember which one. Is he the daily HODL? I can't remember who runs the daily HODL. Let's see. Ripple-backed crypto startup building XRP based banking app. Here it is. This is the one. The sign. And so before we get into the before we get into regulation, let's just go over this, because I kind of picked this out as well, and I brought it up. And I think that when we look at Zine, I think it's interesting. The founder of Ripple-backed XRP Labs has confirmed that his company's new app is designed to do much more than let users send crypto from one wallet to another. At a BitTrue community event in Amsterdam, Westwin unveiled the company's flagship mobile app called Zine. The app will be a fully fledged mobile banking platform that allows users to hold and spend euros, dollars, XRP, and other currencies without any help from a financial institution. So basically, I think Chip had mentioned that they're also applying for banking rights in Europe. So although you know, we're seeing a division, and this is what kind of triggered this thought too. So when I was listening to DM on his, you know, he had mentioned that, you know, that we're moving in this direction where banks could potentially become irrelevant, and there's apps and there's all this stuff, where I disagree with this statement here. I disagree wholeheartedly with this statement that we can trade in XRP and other currencies without any help from a financial institution. The reason why I disagree with that statement is because, you know, with that mobile app, with this banking platform, we're still relying on a financial institution, because if they have to apply for a banking permit in order to do this, similar to, you know, an Uphold, they're going to want to extend themselves into that space, into the banking space. They then become a financial institution, you know, by definition. Although you don't have the physical brick and mortar structure of the financial institution, you by definition become a financial institution when you become a bank. So whether it's a digitized online bank or not, that financial institution status holds firm. And so that's where I believe that, yes, we have a lot of these P2P exchange opportunities, where if I wanted to send you know, money to Carl Lewis, and I told Carl, hey, I'm going to send you some XRP through the XRP tip bot, I can send you money. If I have another app, I can send it to you. You'll have it within seconds. It's freaking amazing. Obviously, we can do that. However, from an overall, you know, regulatory perspective, in order to have continuous transaction, there has to be a banking environment. So again, it doesn't have to be a brick and mortar bank. There has to be a banking financial institution environment. If I'm going to do business with you, I'm going to transact with you, I need to have record keeping with you. Obviously, I can go through some platforms where I can, right now, I can just send you digital asset
right to your address, and that's the end of it. And now we didn't have any banks involved whatsoever. However, as an overall part of society, especially if you want to be a member of this banking entity, so to speak, where financial institutions and banks will always exist, Nexo, Celsius, or Cell, whatever it is, there's many of them popping up, meaning that people that need to borrow and people that want to lend, people want to invest, they want their digital asset held, they want to gain interest. Those entities that are holding are loaning out because you need to buy homes, you need to get car loans, you need to take out a business loan, you need to take out finance loans for school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, down the line. So financing through financial institutions is always going to be a requirement within society. There's no potential at this moment in time to where we can exist in a dollar earned, dollar spent environment. It just we're not in that reality. So as we look at a Zion moving forward, and if they are, applying for this online banking experience, they again, to finalize the thought on this, will become a bank, will become a financial institution by definition. So be interesting to see what you guys think about that. And let me look. I kind of minimized my chat while I was talking. I didn't mean to do that. Tesla stock is tanking. Let me scroll up here. Sorry about this. I meant to keep an eye on it. And Ralph Raymond says, someone tells me the SEC are really warming up to crypto. I realize America has some catching up to do. That is true. There are commissioners on the SEC that hold the opinion that are pro crypto, pro digital asset. There are members in Congress, 4 or 5 of them, that are extremely pro digital asset, pro crypto, pro blockchain. The U.S. has a huge amount to catch up. We have people sitting in Congress right now that don't even know the purpose of a Facebook. They don't know how to access Facebook. If you put a mobile phone in front of them, they probably can't access Twitter. They wouldn't know how to Skype. They don't know what WhatsApp is. They don't know what Instagram is. They don't know what anything is. They could barely access their email and type on their mobile phone, on their mobile device. They need IT support to do anything, and they typically will turn to their grandkids to help them with their mobile phone, and these are members of Congress. So for them to even contemplate and understand the significance of digital asset is something that we as a community, we as the grassroots, have and need to take up as a mission, as a kind of as a calling at this point. That's why I put out the call to arms for us to get engaged and involved, and we have a group already of content creators that are willing to participate in this rollout of information that I've already had these multiple conversations now with 2 of the key members within the Token Taxonomy Act to begin to feed them this information that they can then share with the other members of Congress. They can then share with the staff, the teams within the other congressional representative offices. That's one point. We can't, make a video and rely that it's going to be spread. Then the real job begins, because as I mentioned yesterday with Rain and previously to that, when we create this information, when we pull up and we get these great videos together, we have tens of thousands of viewers on a daily basis across a wide spectrum of content creators. We need to do whatever we can to reach out to more content creators. We have a nice pool of content creators that everybody's familiar with, that has an outreach to about 100,000 plus subscribers, that again reach out to maybe close to 10,000 on a regular basis. There could be, of those 10,000, there could be some crossover, so maybe that's not the exact number on a daily basis. But the individuals, those 10,000, have a broader reach. If we are able to target and get on a significant outpouring of messaging on Twitter, on email, and on the phones with our congressional representatives, the impact that we are going to have in the United States is going to be exponential. and you guys are going to see that no one's ever seen anything of its kind before to lobby these congressional representatives aggressively on Twitter, on social media, on every single platform. We can talk about it on YouTube. Once we get these videos out, it's going to be a matter of every single person, continuously, picking a couple congressional representatives. Right now, the emphasis will be on the Financial Services Committee, but targeting them over and over and over again and saying, hey, this is important for the U.S. Hey, this is important for your constituents. And we have to have a good phraseology so it doesn't look like they're bots spamming. It has to be very personal. Hey, at rep so-and-so, although I don't live in your district, I do business with someone who does, blah, 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 whatever. I just want, since you're on the Financial Services Committee, this is very important. The person, my rep isn't on the Financial Services Committee. My rep doesn't have a voice, but you do have a voice. And, and whatever, but we need to, target and go into a very organized approach to making this happen. So just kind of went off on a little bit of rant here. Let me scroll down. I want to make sure I'm kind of caught up, and then I'll try to scroll back up here. And so Chip said, I've been saying that there's a second use case for XRP to replace Visa, Amex as a payment method. Amazon alone would save millions of dollars in fees. I agree. However, utilizing XRP with a Visa Amex, the whole purpose of a Visa Amex is that we don't have to pay immediately for product. Otherwise, we'd all use debit cards. Having the security of an Amex. So if I buy something with Amex as a buyer, it's great because I've got, you have a 30-day window to pay off whatever you bought. It's not a credit card per se, because you're not extending credit. I guess you can have an Amex that is a credit card, or you can elect to have some purchases that go onto credit, paying ridiculous interest rates. However, the benefit there is the offset to give you more time to pay for something, and at the same time giving you a consumer protection that if something happens, you can easily do a chargeback, or Amex is going to support you and come to your defense when you're dealing with a bad actor. Now, if you abuse that, and I was somewhere yesterday, someone was talking about a buyer repeatedly abusing chargebacks and coming after it with as though they were a different person. That person is then in hot water from a legal perspective for doing something that is obviously considered theft at that point, because they're keeping the product, and if they're keeping the product and they're doing a chargeback, now they've stolen that product. So I had that incident occur to me one time selling on eBay, and it was a disaster. We were selling a lot of things, and one of the things that we were selling were collectibles, and it was a very expensive collectible card, and it sold for about $7,000. And there was a screw up within the shipping provider. The shipping provider didn't deliver it signature required as requested, and they made a claim that that box wasn't clicked. So it became a debate and battle with the shipping provider. And at the same time, since a chargeback was issued against us and there was $7,000, the card was gone. The $7,000 got yanked out of the account by PayPal, and now we were sitting holding zero. So then we had to go and fight PayPal. We had to fight the shipping provider. We had to fight everybody, but the person that bought it held now his money and the card. So that was, and so those are the detriments on the other side of things. And then as a seller, you're paying those Amex costs. You're paying the 3% every time that card is swiped. But to Chip's point, XRP is, fundamentally in its nature to actually be able to do that type of work. So there still has to be a banking element that is going to extend the credit to the individuals and really facilitate as a third party in between a buyer and a seller. So although digital assets are great, individuals still require a third party balance act in order to make sure that all parties are acting the way they need to. So let's see here. We need to start a movement to promote businesses accepting XRP. Okay, that's keep going down here. XRP payments on Google Play. Oh, that's it. I'm at the bottom of that thought process, and that's it. And I'm coming up on my hour here. We talked a lot, and now I need to pour a little more espresso, and then we'll go on for another couple hours because I think DNI might start streaming again. I want to just like run into his stream. We keep. Chip, we got to just keep that going. We're going to go for the marathon streams. I think if we get everybody, we can do back-to-back streams, and we should try to set a Guinness Book of World Records and see how long we can have a continuous stream, you know, going back-to-back with, that would be interesting. So, all right, let's see where we're at, and then we'll start wrapping up here in a minute. Mike Smith in West Palm, or is that a second store in Delray? Oh, is there a second one in Delray Beach too? There's a crypto cafe up there? Or is that the only in West Palm? XRP payments on Google Play, that would be kind of cool. Let me see here. I'm working on a theory. Ralph said, I'm working on a theory called ZER, a fully interoperable air mileage redemption system between all airlines, as many people have unused mileage could be redeemed for XRP. Wow, that's interesting. How about, I mean, yeah, redeemed for XRP, but what about the purchase of, you know, so redeemed, what about, let's say you have 80,000, 100,000, 10,000, let's say you have 10,000 miles, air miles, and, you know, I need another 10,000 air miles. Obviously, the airline wants to try to sell you that, but let's say I can buy them at half price from Ralph, and Ralph has got his 10,000 miles that I need, and I can buy those with XRP. That would be really interesting because that is, again, this goes back to even like gaming, you know, where you put all this time and effort into acquiring something, and then it just goes away. Same thing with air miles. If you go put all this time and effort, but it's not really time, you're traveling, so they're kind of giving them to you as a perk. But imagine you can take that and you can transfer that over to somebody. But you know what a lot of people don't realize is that flight miles can actually be used to make purchases within, like if you go to Delta, they have a store where you can actually use your flight miles to buy things. It's not as good as using it for air travel. However, depending on where you go, you can use your flight miles for car rentals. You can use your flight miles towards hotels. You can actually purchase product with it. So there's a lot of other things you can do with flight miles. But it would be interesting if you can also transfer it and give... dude, Chip, of course, DNI was streaming this morning. Come on, man. Get with it. And you missed my stream yesterday. You were on a little bit with Rain last night, and then you totally missed DNI's stream this morning. Come on, man. He was on at like 6:30, and when I got on, he goes, "Where's Chip?" He said, "Is Chip out there walking his dog too?" And I said, "I'm out here at 6:30 a.m. I'm a little bit late, you know, for my day, but you know, I don't know where Chip is." But man, you were the topic of conversation for like 10 minutes. All right. You keep drinking those espressos, you better hope another live stream comes up on to save the day. I know, exactly. Man, this is it. I gotta start wrapping up. Anyhow, look at this. It's the whole thing's actually not full, and honestly, typically for me, you know, one cup of espresso is enough. That's it. I don't need more than that, and I'm good the rest of the day. You know, I love it. Like in the morning, it's great. After dinner, it's great. You know, espressos is perfect. Let me see what else. I had a few more things, then we're gonna wrap this up. My you know, my agenda is always, you know, keep it to an hour, and now I'm already over the hour. So I think it's important to like keep everything within that hour. And since I don't have anybody coming in right behind me, there's no stress to bounce off. But I want to keep everything to an hour. So let me go jump into the real world utility, which I already, oh man, you know what I forgot was the regulation. That's what we're getting into, and I completely misstepped the regulation. Real world utility we just talked about, so we can skip that. But let's go right into this regulation. And this was an article that came up on Cointelegraph. Normally, I'll drill down and look for the original source. So a lot of time there's press releases, a lot of time there's a government document or whatever it might be that somebody in an article is quoting from, and sometimes they're not understanding the proper what was actually written, so it's always best to look for the original source. But this is interesting. This is only a think tank, but it's a think tank within Congress, and there's multiple think tanks that are popping up, and you have the FinTech Task Force within the FSC that was set up by Maxine Waters, and the FinTech Task Force has the first case coming before them next week. But I was also told that the first project is going to be Token Taxonomy Act, so that's going to be interesting. But the task force is going to be meeting for the first time, I believe, next week. So, but this is a separate entity. This is a think tank claiming that Bitcoin is used mostly as an investment vehicle. It's called the Congressional Research Service, which is a think tank, and they said it's being used as a speculative investment tool and not for money. That's what they're looking at it. The potential decline of cash. So, as part of the investigation into cash usage, the report dubbed the potential decline of cash usage and related implications appears to forecast a reduction in paper money as contactless card payments increase. That's interesting. That's a case. Yes, more and more people are using credit cards and not using cash for ease of use. But that doesn't mean that that's also going to bring about the rise of digital asset. However, here it says, although price data on Bitcoin illustrates the public interest in an overall demand for this cryptocurrency, it's a poor indicator of how often it is being exchanged for goods and services. So I don't believe that Bitcoin is being used at this point for the purchase of goods and services. However, unless it is large goods and services, potentially, because we've seen the purchase of Lambos, we've seen the purchase of houses, but the cost, it becomes cost prohibitive to make a transaction of that kind. To move a large volume of Bitcoin is going to cost you significantly. So it doesn't, and Mike Smith, it's too slow to settle, too costly to settle. It doesn't make any sense, and that's why I believe people are not going to be doing that. So Ralph, Raymond, Jeff, I'll research the Delta mileage usage. Thanks for the info. But I think all that kind of goes hand in hand and can work and can be really interesting. Mike Smith goes back to what I was saying. Why Chip was probably, he's smart. He's still in bed sleeping while a lot of us are here. So 6:30. What is it? Almost 9. The past 3 hours we've been involved in this space. In going, you're on a roll, man. I'm gonna keep this going until 9:30 on the dot, because 9:30 on the dot means that this is an hour and a half show. Although I started about 10 minutes late. So there are people from the UK, Ian, that Elaine. Let's see, XRP from Coinbase to BitTrue was amazingly fast, less than 30 seconds. It's crazy. I was with Rain yesterday, and I sent him a tip bot, and it was just, we're on the phone, and I sent them the tip bot, and it was like, blep, it was like instant, boom. All of a sudden, he had XRP on the tip bot. It's crazy. Crazy how fast that works. So all right, let's round this off. Just some thought here on direct utility, and this goes back to what we started talking about with Zine, the XIGN. I think is that's West Wind's banking app that they're working on. I think that is going to change a lot. I think that's going to be very, very important. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And then what's interesting, and I brought this up to Chip the other day, in 2007, JP Morgan purchased a company called Zine that had to do with B2B money transfer. In 2013, JP Morgan closed Zine, spelled XIGN or sign, or I don't know how you pronounce it. I guess it would be sign. So I just thought it was really interesting that we have JP Morgan with that exact same thing. So I'm wondering, I asked Chip, I said, what do you think is going to happen when JP Morgan finds out? Because I'm sure they still have rights to the name Sign. Now, we have West Wind, theirs is Sign or Zine.io. That's the website, but their product has the same name as the company that JP Morgan had acquired in 2007 and shut down in 2013. So time will tell to see what kind of battle is going to be on the horizon. But I just thought that was interesting, especially considering the antagonistic nature of JP Morgan initially in the space, and now their adoption of JPM, and behind. This just proves over and over and over again. There's the new generation of banking and banking apps and financial institutions that are rising to the surface. You call them fintech, call them blockchain, call them digital asset based, whatever it is. The brick and mortar banks are falling rapidly behind, and they're playing catch up. And JP Morgan with their JPM already behind RippleNet with Ripple, and now with West Wind able to come up with a banking app that is going to be far superior to many of the apps that are out there. But again, becoming, in essence, based on definition, becoming a bank or financial institution. So I think it's really interesting. There's a ton, that's kind of rounding itself out. And man, every day, someone said, what's the space going to look like in 5 years? I don't think we're going to be able to recognize the space in 5 years. If we were to just jump forward and say, hey, we're in the future. I think that's interesting. So, Ralph, I tweeted back to West and suggested Zingo to Zine World as suggestion if JPM are a nightmare. It's got to do something. Needs something that is, Zine Go, Sign Go, something that sounds good, that's easy to remember. I think that, Michael, yeah, brick and mortar banks are like MySpace. Yeah, people are going to forget about it. I can't tell you the last time I went into a bank was because I had to have something notarized and safety deposit box. Other than that, I can't tell you the last time I used an ATM. I can't tell you the last time I walked into a bank for banking transactions. None of that. I mean, it's insane. Everything is strictly online. And, and so that means that, very, very few people, and you go in and it's almost like a ghost town. You go into some of these banks, there's just not a lot going on in there. So 1 minute. All right, I'm going to drink this espresso right to 9:30. XRP minute at the HODL Report. Can't find you an XRP tip bot. The HODL Report. Plus, where's my thing? You know what? That's what I meant to do. I'm glad you reminded me. So I've got the QR code on the screen, but that's not enough. And I was telling Chip the other day too. So you got the QR code, but I'm always on my mobile app. I'm watching on a computer or a tablet. I can't scan the QR code. Some people are, but putting the Twitter, if you want to use XRP Tipbot, send it to at the HODL Report. It used to be HODL Report 1, which it is no longer. It is just Twitter is the HODL Report, at the HODL Report. So XRP, Chip is on his way to an appointment, and we're at 9:30. So that's it. Trump visit 2020. Yes, that's awesome. Okay, so let me see. Ralph is in Knightsbridge listening to all the state visit. Oh, is Trump over in the UK? That's awesome. That is fantastic. Yep, man. Trump. The media attacking him. The people love him. The people always loved him in the U.S. All the people that are attacking him. You go back in the media, they were his buddy. As soon as it became, as soon as it became cool in this Hollywood, community to hate, then all of a sudden they hate. It's so ridiculous. I don't really want to drive into politics right now, but I'm glad that he's over there, and there's a ton of things happening. So anyhow, let's round it out. That was an hour and a half. Really appreciate all you guys that hung in there. We had a real decent conversation today. Looking forward to seeing you guys again. Anybody who's still on, that hasn't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and hit that bell notifier. Get ready for some big announcements coming up here. Some things will be rolling out that I think you guys will really like. Stay tuned for what we're going to be announcing regarding action within the Token Taxonomy Act. And hopefully soon there'll be an XRP meetup announcement. Michael Metzner and maybe we can get something together with Chip and some others at least to get something going. It'll be interesting. So anyhow, that's it for today. My stream is I think the people that watch over this are making some statements. So anyhow, love to see you guys back on again. Thumbs up if you haven't given thumbs up yet. And are you watching my stream? I'm trying to end this now. Is it good? You enjoying it? My son was watching the stream in the other room, so he came out to show me that I'm still streaming and it's time for me to hang up. So anyhow, I appreciate all you guys. Look forward to seeing you guys back on Monday night if I don't get a stream going here tomorrow, which I don't anticipate, but in case something doesn't come up, Monday, obviously you guys will see DNI on at 9 p.m. I'll be on at 10 p.m. with some more great content. And then Chip is on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 p.m. I'm on Mondays and Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Friday with Auburn Rain. And that brings us all the way back to next Saturday at 8 a.m. And hopefully there'll be some other major announcements coming up soon. So anyhow, again, appreciate everybody. Looking forward to seeing you guys next time. And until that time, you guys know what to do. Keep on hodling your crypto. Shout out to Carl Lewis. My son says shout out to Carl Lewis.